In section 2.3, we are going to be studying circles. But before we jump into that section, there is some review material that I'd like to go over that I feel will help make your life easier when you work with circles. So let's take a look at that. The first review topic we're going to go over is the midpoint formula, and you're going to use this to find the midpoint of a line segment. Okay, so let's read in the box here. It says the midpoint M, which has coordinates x, y, of the line segment from point 1, which has coordinates x1, y1, to point 2, which has coordinates x2, y2, is given by x1 plus x2 over 2, y1 plus y2 over 2. Okay, so what's going on here, and I'm going to draw a little schematic so you can understand. Okay, this is something you may have learned in a geometry class at some point in time. Okay, so say you have a line segment. So if you remember what a line segment is part of a line. So basically, the line does not continue indefinitely in both directions. It basically has a starting point, so maybe right here, and this could be P1, and then it has an ending point, so this could be point 2, and this is your line segment, and basically you're trying to find the midpoint. Okay, so you're trying to find the point right smack dab in the middle. Okay, so that would be the midpoint, and it's going to have it's going to be located at some ordered pair, because you're going to, we're going to be assuming that this line segment is going to be located somewhere in the plane. Okay, so your midpoint will have a certain x coordinate and a certain y coordinate. Okay, and you're able to calculate it based off of the coordinates of P1 and P2. Okay, so like we said in the definition, point 1 has coordinates x1, y1, and then P2 has coordinates x2, y2. And so to calculate the midpoint, where that point right smack dab in the middle of the line segment is located, all you do to get the x coordinate of the midpoint, you just average the x coordinates of the 2 points. Okay, so you take the x coordinate of point 1, and then you add to that the x coordinate for point 2, and you divide the result by 2. Okay, so essentially you're averaging the x coordinates. Okay, and then to get the y coordinate of the midpoint, you do the same thing to the y coordinates for P1 and P2. Okay, you're going to average the y coordinates. Okay, so you're going to take y1, add it to y2, divide by 2. Okay, and this result, like I said, will be an ordered pair. Okay, it will be the location of the midpoint. Okay, so let's do an example, and then after that I'll show you why we need to know how to do midpoint. Okay, in example R1, it says given point 1 is 2, -3, and point 2 is 10, 3. Find the midpoint of the line segment from P1 to P2. Okay, now you don't have to graph this. Actually, it's more accurate to not graph it. What I'm saying is, don't try to get the answer by graphing, but I put a grid here so that you can get a visual of what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and plot these 2 points. Okay, so point 1 has coordinates 2, -3. Okay, so that's right here. Okay, and then point 2 has coordinates 10, 3. That's right here. And we're interested in the line segment joining these 2 points. So I'm going to connect these 2 dots with a line. Okay, so this is going to be our line segment. Okay, all right, so like right there. Okay, I'll go ahead and label this as P1, this is P2. We want the point right smack dab in the middle. Okay, just from a glance at the graph, it looks like the midpoint is going to be right here around this point 60. Okay, but again, we're going to confirm it algebraically. Sometimes you may have a graph that you can't read it off of the grid, so it is good to know how to calculate this algebraically. Okay, all right, so to find the midpoint, this is capital M. Do not mix this up with slope. Okay, remember slope, you use the variable lowercase m. Okay, so to find the midpoint here, it's going to be an ordered pair. We're going to need to average the 2 x coordinates, and we're going to have to average the two y coordinates, okay? And then that will be the location of the midpoint. Okay, so let's try it. Okay, so to get the x coordinate of the midpoint, we need to add up our x coordinates. Okay, so let's see, that's going to be 2 and 10. Okay, so we need to add them up. So 2 plus 10, and then we need to divide by 2. Okay, and then to get the y coordinate of the midpoint, we need to add the y coordinates. Okay, so that's going to be negative 3 and 3. And then we need to divide by 2. Okay, so if we simplify, this tells us that the midpoint of this line segment is going to be located at 12 divided by 2 and 0 divided by 2. This simplifies to be 6, 0. Okay, that is the point that we thought, when we glanced at the grid, it looked like this is exactly where the midpoint was. Okay, and that's it right there. Okay, so that red dot, the 0.60, divides the line segment exactly in 2 equal parts. Okay, so why do we have to know how to do this for circles? Okay, well, here's why. Okay, so these 2 points that I've drawn, P1 and P2, they could be 2 points on a circle. Okay, so I'm going to draw a circle in here. Okay, I'm not very good at this, so just pardon my artwork here. Okay, so I'm just drawing in a circle. So again, P1 and P2 might be 2 points on a circle. Okay, so one of the big things we're going to be doing with circles is we're going to be writing down the equation of circles. Okay, and there's 2 things you're going to need to form the equation of a circle. You're going to need the center of the circle, which is the point right smack dab in the center of the circle, and you're also going to need the radius of the circle. Okay, so if these 2 points, P1 and P2, were points on the circle, then by calculating the midpoint, that 0.60, we have gotten the center of the circle. Okay, so we need that 0.60, the center of the circle, in order to form the equation of the circle. Okay, so this is why midpoint is going to be useful when you're working with circles. Okay, because again, you may have 2 points on a circle. Okay, and notice, I don't know if you remember the terminology associated with circles. These are just not 2 random points on the circle. Okay, they form a diameter of the circle. Okay, so basically P1 and P2, if you connect the dots, they go all the way across the circle and through the center. Okay, so there are 2 points on the diameter of the circle. So essentially, if you cut the diameter in half, you end up with the radius, but also going halfway in between is getting you the center point of that circle. Okay, so midpoint will definitely be useful when you're working with circles.